Matt, welcome to the Lead, Learn, Grow podcast.
Robin, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Good to be here.
Yeah, we'll get into how you crossed my path here in a little bit, but maybe to kick us off, tell the listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do, how you got here. Give us a little biographical journey to kick us off.
Yeah, so I grew up in just outside Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I live in Richmond, Virginia now with my family, and I got to where I am today by screwing up a lot.
Yeah.
I'm a financial coach, accountability partner to high achievers, and I got to this point because no one ever told me what to do, so I had to go do it myself, screwed up, and then figure it out. So my goal is to help people who are real drivers, who are high performers, compress time so they don't make all the same mistakes that I did with their money, with their health, with their family, every aspect of life. I don't want them to make the same mistakes I did because they can get to where I am and beyond way faster than me because I'm here. I know how to get here. So I can get somebody here way faster than I got here. So that's where I get my most fulfillment is it having conversations with people. Like I believe that we deserve all of it. We deserve everything. I deserve to have a great family, a great wife, a great kids, a successful business. And for me, like I used to make a lot of excuses for why I wasn't successful in a certain area. And really, Robin, it was like one day I woke up, I'm like, well, why not? Like, why can't I be successful in business and have 10% body fat? Why can't I coach all the teams? Why can't I do everything? So that's kind of what started me is why not? Why not have it all?
So what's a financial coach?
Well, my business started in 2002 in the insurance industry.
Mm-hmm.
I started in the insurance industry, got into the investment business because they kind of go hand in hand. So that's what I would do. I started helping people with their money through insurance, and then it led to more. Now, like what a lot of my clients, I mean, I have some clients call me and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about buying a car. What do you think?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I just help them with money, just a perspective. Not to say I'm an expert in it, but I have done a lot of those things, and I've made some good choices and some bad choices. So I just give my perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting. In all aspects of life, high performers have coaches,
Mm.
and a lot of folks have financial advisors, which is, in some cases they might perform the role of a coach, in other cases they might not. But it's interesting, those two words, I don't think about them going together all that often. Like I don't hear the words financial coach. And it strikes me that, if I'm taking golf lessons or if I've got a personal trainer, maybe I ought to have a financial coach too. Like it's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in hiring somebody to help me with an area I'm struggling with, or that I want more out of a certain area of my life.
Yeah.
So this morning I was with a client. He's an attorney. Um, we didn't talk really about money. We didn't really talk anything about money. We talked a lot about his business, how we're trying to remove him from the day-to-day business. So to elevate himself, he's going to have to elevate others. But primarily, the conversation was around family. Just the day-to-day, not struggles, but the day-to-day struggles of being a business owner, having a family, having all the things that we've got all going on in our lives with a business and all the employees that we have and kids and a family, and it's a lot of weight. And I find a lot of people try to do it on their own and they just get bogged down and they just get beat up by life. This guy happened to be a really good athlete, a two-sport college athlete, and now he's in his 40s. He's overweight. He doesn't like it. That's not who he is, but that's what he's turned into. So that's one of the things we talk about. Like, what kind of daily disciplines can we put in place to get us back to who we really want to be? That's ultimately what we're trying to do for him. What do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want? What do you want to be?
Talk about accountability. How do you define accountability? Why is it so important? And, why should someone have an accountability partner in their life?
Yep. So I define accountability as strictly a reminder of what you said you wanted.
Hmm.
That's all. That's my job as an accountability partner is, hey, you said you wanted this. You're not doing it. And it's not, I think accountability as a young person, like I think of my kids, I got a 14-year-old and 11-year-old. If I hold them accountable, they're in trouble. And I think we as adults carry that same feeling of accountability from when we were children to being adults, and it has a negative connotation. So we flipped it. Accountability is simply reminding you of what you said you wanted. And I don't think we can be fully accountable to ourselves because we'll let ourselves off the hook.
For sure.
No doubt. And I think a lot of me being a coach is really finding out what you want. Because a lot of times people don't know what they want. So it's a whole, when I do a discovery call or a discovery meeting with somebody, we're blocking off 2-3 hours because we're going deep into what you want.
How much do you think, when I think about, let me ask it this way, before we go much deeper, how would you define success? When you talk about, you can have it all, you can have, a successful business, you can have, how would you define success?
It's a really good question. And I think it's a moving target. I really do. I used to think success was money and accolades and recognition. And then once you get that, you realize it's quite hollow. Money can really help and make your life better, but to a certain point, and then you realize, like, gosh, and you get to a certain level financially, it doesn't make your life that incrementally better. So for me, money is secondary on my definition of success. Like I've created what I call a wealth wheel, and I've got 8 areas of life that I really want to be successful in. Money is one of them, most certainly. So when I do this about every 90 days, I ask myself a series of questions and I give myself a score, and then I put it on this wheel. And then I look at this wheel and it gives me a nice visual of, hey, this is what my life looks like right now. So when I look at that wheel, if it's lopsided, the road of life is going to be pretty bumpy. If it's really balanced but small, sure, it's a smooth ride, but you're not getting anywhere very fast because the wheel's too small. And then I look at it the other way. If I've got this big wheel and it's really balanced, then I got to ask myself, am I thinking big enough? Because if I'm giving myself 10s on a scale of 1 to 10 in every area, then I'm not challenging myself enough. So that's what the wheel does for me.
Yeah. How much do you think, working with professionals, certainly, you mentioned an attorney and, you think about, I think when folks are younger, they think about they've got to get the credential and they've got to get, the education, they've got to learn the technical skills, they've got to be adept and good at what they're doing. But then as you get older, you start to realize that, a lot of success, that's not the separator. The separator is how people think. And I'd be curious to hear you talk about, things like, I'm curious, I'm sure you get into it, things like self-limiting beliefs and, what I call head trash, just things that we believe to be true, but really they're only true for us. How much of your coaching and your conversation is really just around helping people recognize some of these thought patterns and shifting the way they think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something we all work on continuously, me included. So I've got a coach who helps me with that very thing. He helps me recognize if I'm perhaps getting a little negative or limiting what I can do. And I think it comes from, here's the way he describes it to me. It's the story told to us by us, right? So it's the things that we hear really throughout our lives. Matt, you're too serious. Matt, you're too emotional. Matt, you're too strict, you're too disciplined. So we start hearing those things because we're told those things, and we hear it as a negative, when in fact, like, me being super disciplined is actually a power. So when he told me about these things that I hear other people tell me about myself, and I hear it as a negative, and he flips it. He's like, they're telling you that because they wish they had the discipline that you have, and the things that we do kind of instinctively, the things, like, I will call it our unique ability. Our unique ability often is hard to recognize because it comes so easy to us. Oh, so I'm really disciplined. And I think, well, discipline's easy. Like, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you get up at 5 o'clock every day to go work out? That's a simple thing. But because it's so easy to me, I think it's easy for everybody, and that's not the way it is. Some people are really articulate. Some people can really focus. Some people have a knack for sales. That it's a unique ability that they have in them, and you work on that to improve it. But we all have an innate, unique ability, and that's really our superpower. Mine happens to be relationships and discipline. Those are the two things that I think I'm uniquely qualified to talk about.
Yeah, that's good. And you really think about business owners in particular, that comes to mind. And a lot of folks in the audience are running businesses, but you know, some of the things that cripple businesses is just what you're talking about. The owner gets so bogged down
Mm.
into stuff that maybe they're competent with, maybe they're okay at doing, but it's not their unique ability. And for whatever reason, they spend very little time with that area of the business where they can just make the magic. And they're probably the only person there that can actually do that.
Mm-hmm.
And not only does the business not grow and succeed, but they become miserable, along the way. And so I think that's a really that's a good thing for folks to think about.
And I find this with a lot of small business owners, because a small business owner starts out doing everything themselves, everything from bookkeeping to accounting to sales to marketing. They're doing everything. And then they'll become successful. And then they'll think, well, this is the only way to do it. And then maybe they hire somebody to handle some marketing, but they're not doing it exactly the way they did it, which is okay. It's okay, because if you hire somebody to do something that really is not your unique ability, they're going to do it differently. And different doesn't mean bad. It doesn't mean they're going to do it worse than you. They're likely going to do it better than you. But because you had some level of success, you think, no, and you're the boss. This is the only way it's got to be done. And the hardest part for business owners is to pull away and let people grow and let people do the thing that they're hired to do and do it their way. Now, I'm not saying just completely blindly turn everything over.
Sure.
Like, as the business owner, I think you still need to have the final say and have them report back to you the metrics. I think the tracking is something that I love. I think anything you track will improve. So when you give people metrics to track, I think it can't stay stagnant. It will improve because you're tracking it.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to transition over. The way you and I connected was I had gotten I think it was a marketing email about an event that you were a part of, and it really caught my attention. It was about kids and money, and it's something that all parents think about, and I think particularly parents who have achieved a level of success. I think about just personally. So, I grew up in rural West Virginia. My father had an 8th grade education. My mother made it to the 11th grade. So when I graduated from high school, I mean, it may as well have been Harvard. And I think about just growing up, the kid of a coal miner, and just really not knowing it at the time, but really looking back, kind of struggling. And then you go out and you live your life, and then you become, some level of successful financially, and your kids grow up completely different. You know, it's private schools, it's sports lessons, it's not want for nothing, it's, you know, golf club in the summer, it's all of that. And, you know, one of my greatest fears was that, you know, my kids were going to grow up and they were going to be soft, right? Because the thing,
Yeah.
like the struggle was what I think, at least it's a story I tell myself. The struggle was the thing that allowed me to be successful. And gosh, I'm taking that away from my kids. I'm giving them everything, but I'm taking that away. And it always, of course, you know, it's baked now. They're gone, but and fortunately they've turned out well. But I think a lot of parents struggle with that. So tell me a little bit about, you know, what inspired you to kind of take this topic on and dive deep into it? Like where did that come from?
I think it just came from like personal development, trying to figure out money for myself. Um, you know, because I was trying to figure all that stuff out in personal finance, um, really right before we had kids. So I was in the heat of it and learning and growing pretty rapidly as we were getting as we were having kids and they were getting on into their toddler years. And then I remember this is a funny story, at least I think so. My parents on holidays, like even Easter, they would send a card to my kids. They still do it, and there's $2 in it. $2 for Easter, $2 for Valentine's Day. And I remember my son Max, who he had to be 3 maybe, really, really small. And he opened the card and he's like, I was recording it so I could send it to my parents. And I was like, what do you got, man? And he's like, I got $2. And I said, what are you gonna do with it? What are you gonna buy? He goes, I'm going to buy more money. And I was like, that's a great idea. Like it can be that simple.
Mhm.
And it was my 3-year-old son teaching me a lesson. Hey, use money to go buy more money. Um,
Interesting.
so and I struggled. So in my early 20s and really mid 20s, I had struggled with money. So I had to go figure it out, made a bunch of mistakes. So it was important to me to teach my kids so they didn't have to struggle the way I struggled with. Like there's no reason to struggle. Um, I wasn't taught about money as a kid. I'm not saying my parents messed that up. I'm just like a lot of families, money wasn't talked about. It just wasn't. It's almost like a faux pas to talk about money. And then when I got into the financial services business, that's all I did was talk about money. So the idea of it being a faux pas and talking about it was gone because this is what I did all day, every day. I have no issues talking about money, none. So for me to teach my kids, hey, this is what we do with money, and it started with the 3 basics: save, give, and spend. And to this day, they have. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
So to this day, they have in their rooms these little buckets, and they're clear buckets, and they've written on them save, give, and spend. So when they in my house, my kids don't earn an allowance; they're on commission. That's just the way it is in my house. Everything is earned. Um, so when they earn money, we pay them in singles because
Mhm.
it was all a mistake. Like I went, all right, I earned $18. I was like, oh, I got a 20. So they'll give me 2, and I'll give them a 20. And I'm like, all right, separate that into save, give, and spend. They're like, how? I got one bill here,
Mhm.
right? As an example. So then we realized, well, I guess I need to go and just get a bunch of singles, and then pay them that way, pay their commissions that way. And in a perfect world, we do this every Sunday. We don't, but in a perfect world, it's how we would do it.
Mhm.
Um, and then you were mentioning about the webinar that we did
Mhm.
to help teach kids about money. So I met a guy named Scott Donald. He's been really successful, and he's started, grown, and sold companies basically on every level. Entrepreneurial spirit, entrepreneurial family, extremely successful. Believes a lot of the same things I believe within save, give, and spend, but he's taken it a step further, and he developed this app called GravyStack. So this app GravyStack is save, give, spend, invest, borrow, budget. So it takes it and it brings in the 2023 and 2024 where you're doing everything online. Like, and not everybody carries cash anymore. And that was one of the problems we were running into. Oh, it's payday. Here, Dad, I earned $7. Well, I don't have $7 because I don't carry cash very often. So the app is attached to our bank accounts. They have the app on their phone. And if they want to earn money, there's things on there they can do, not just like manual labor chores. Now, if they want to wash my car, they're going to get paid for it. Okay. But there's also things on there, like if they want to read a book, they'll get paid for reading. If they want to watch a TED Talk, they'll get paid for watching a TED Talk and then telling me about it. So there's things, there's like not homework, but they call them gigs on the app. There's gigs on the app, and then you can customize it to, because in my house, like if you're a Dira, there's just certain things that you do because you're a Dira, not because you get paid for it. Like putting your dishes away, I'm not paying you for that. You're doing that because you're a Dira and you're here to help. Like I'm not your waiter, right? So he believed the same thing. So, but he put it all into an app, and then the kids actually get a debit card. So then the app is connected to our bank account. They say, hey, I earned this much money. I confirm it. It goes right into their account. It's on their card. They can spend it. They can budget it. And then the 3 buckets that I was talking about physically is in my kids' rooms. It's on the app. And then they can see, like, it's a nice, like cartoon type disbursement from 1 bucket of earning into the 3 buckets, and they see it happening, and they can see accounts grow. And then they're taught about investing, and they're taught about borrowing, and they're taught about budgeting. And I think it's a great app. So we've been using that.
What's the app again?
It's called GravyStack.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes. I'll look it up and put it in the show notes. That's fantastic. It really.
And Scott is a great guy. He's a great follow on Instagram. Scott Donnell, he's a great follow on there. I love the app. We love the app. It's been helpful. It's still, we're still learning the app because there's so much to it.
Yeah.
I don't think we're using it to its full capacity yet. It's, even if you're using it a little bit, it's better than nothing.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I think too, what you said, it really is, and some of the listeners will certainly identify with this, but you're right. At the beginning of your comments, you were talking about how, money is almost, you just don't talk about it. And a lot of times the discussion from authority figures, I can remember my dad, like, God forbid you leave a room and leave the light on. And he would be like, do you think I own stock in Appalachian Power? Turn that light off. And,
That's right.
If you had money, you had to hold on to it because, the mines might go on strike next week and then you wouldn't get a paycheck. And it was this very much a clinching, money is hard to get. And if you ever get any, you better hold on to it because people are trying to take it from you. And it was that mentality. And then you think about, okay, and a lot of people grew up in, money doesn't grow on trees kind of world. Then you think about moving into the business world. And then me as a business owner, where, you have to take some risk with money. You have to invest a little bit of money. You have to turn loose of, you have to talk about money. And, it's a hard barrier to overcome when you bring all of that, self-limiting belief thinking when you bring it with you. So I think a lot of the stuff we think about in the world of sales in particular, most salespeople have a really hard time talking about money. They negotiate against themselves. They don't get, their value. And I think a lot of that is just between the ears. So I love that, what you're saying is, let's talk about it. Let's learn about it. It's not good or bad. It just is. And, having a good relationship as a kid, like I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. you're talking about like salespeople, and frankly, that's what I was and am. And um, I was like, oh, like what you were describing, I would hold on to money because I didn't know when money was coming again, even if I was successful month after month after,
Right.
like you're
Right.
just not sure. And the
Right.
mindset shift that hit me um, when I was probably in my late 20s was I remember I had a great month followed by a not so great month. And for a minute, the panic set in. Like
Mhm.
any sales professional business owner had that down month and there's straight panic. What am I going to do? Then I realized like, well, the average is going to work out. And then I'm like, okay, there's something here. So then
Mhm.
I went digging. All right, what is my average? What's my average monthly income? And I went back a couple, 3 years. Okay, here's my average. I think you should go back a few years to get a good look. But if you're improving, then 12 months should be pretty good. But there's some months or there's some businesses that are cyclical in certain times
Sure.
of the year, and you need to know that.
Mhm.
So then I started, all right, what is my average? And then I got, this is my average sale. And then, all right, and then I needed to know, okay, what does it cost me to run my life? I think that is one of the biggest overlooked aspects of personal finance. I call it the "You Are Here" sticker. Like
Mhm.
remember back in the day, you go to the mall and you look at that at that big map of the mall. The map is useless unless you know where you are. So they
Mhm.
put a big sticker that says "You are here." Then you can navigate. And I think that's what your monthly spend is your "You Are Here" sticker.
Mhm.
And then if I then you realize, all right, look, man, if I have a down month, cool. Like then that just means law of averages. I'm going to have an up month. And then through the course of the year, um, it becomes mentally easier, at least it was for me, to say, all right, I'm going to have to pull from this account to make up for this low month.
Mhm.
But no, it's going to get replenished next month or the
Mhm.
month after. And then it eased me mentally. And then I was able to just go and perform.
Yeah, that's right. It takes some of the pressure off. And
Yeah.
because, when you live and die, particularly in the world of sales, or if you're a business owner and it's variable, I mean, it really, and that pressure does not help you sell better. I mean, that pressure is bad in a million different ways. What do you think? What are some of the the common mistakes you think parents make when it comes to kids and money?
I think there's two. I think entitlement's a big problem. I understand I understand where I understand why kids are entitled because you grew up in the coal mines of West Virginia. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania. Like it's hard. It's hard. So as we do better, we want to give those things to our kids.
Mhm.
And then as you continue to be successful and you become wealthy, you want to give your kids this just because it's human nature. You want your kids to have everything. But then if they're not earning it, then that sense of entitlement comes along. So if you give and give and give and there's no earn, that's where you see a big sense of entitlement, and it will come back to bite them because when they get introduced to the real world, sure, their last name may get them into some doors, um, but if they can't perform, they're going to get kicked out of that door.
Mhm.
And then the other thing I think is not having an abundance mentality. So that might be contrary to what I just said, but there's not a shortage of money.
Mhm.
So I think kids need to know that even when times are tough, there's still not a shortage.
Mhm.
So you just need to go out and earn it. And I think when times are tough, I think being open with your children, say, yeah, it's hard, but I'm going to go earn it. I'm confident in my abilities to earn it, and showing them the hard work that it creates, or that it takes to create money. So
Mhm.
then they can see the attachment between hard work, creativity, and money,
Mhm.
and hopefully they take that with them.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Those are good tips. There's a lot in that, and I think I think you're right. I think it's, we just aspire that our children have more. We aspire that they do better. And, in today's world, probably our generation, that wasn't all that difficult. That, granddad lived a little worse than dad and probably lived a little better than dad. But in today's world, boy, I don't know. I mean, it's not a slam dunk when you think about kids and being out on their own and what's going on in 2023. It's not as easy to get a life started as it used to be. And so I think being resilient and not having this entitlement attitude and understanding that effort is required and creativity is required, I think that's really important. And on that, what would you say to young people today? So maybe they're getting out of college and it's really hard for, there aren't $200,000 houses anymore or $100,000 houses. That's almost a thing of the past. Rents are crazy. Everything is it's a more expensive world. We're in a world of inflation right now. Like, what would you tell a young person who's just getting their career started? What advice would you give them around money management and financial kinds of things?
Know your "you are here" sticker. Know that. Create a plan. And then you mentioned the housing. I would not be in a hurry to buy. Like, it's okay to rent because it creates mobility. If you got an opportunity, especially when you're young, if you got an opportunity and and you need to move to Miami for that opportunity, or Austin or Las Vegas, okay, great. Like, break the lease. You don't have to sell a house and worry about, hey, am I going to lose money in the house? It's a lease. You just move on. So being mobile, I think, is a really good thing. And I think the generation today of younger folks, I think they're more mobile than ever. And the amenities at some of these places are they're nicer than houses. And I don't think rent's terrible yet. I think rent's going to go up. That's probably for another discussion. But I think rents are probably going to go up. But yeah, I would be extremely mobile. I would be really, really intentional. I would know my numbers. I would have goals. I think goals are really, really important. I write down my goals twice a day, every day. You can get a lot of clarity that way. There's some things that come out on that paper that I don't expect to come out on that paper sometimes. And sometimes they disappear. And that just tells me it wasn't all that important to me. But when I write my goals down in the morning, it's like fuel to the day. And when I write them down at night, like, I just feel like there's something magical that happens when you write them down at night and then you sleep. Somehow they're still in your head and your brain continues to work on them. So yeah, those things. Keep expenses low, know your numbers, have goals, and don't be afraid to be mobile. Yeah. You left home. I left home. I fully expect my children to leave the state. I just believe that that's what they're going to do, because not every opportunity exists in this state that I live in. So they're going to go and spread their wings, and I encourage them to do it. I did it. I went to college 500 miles away from home, and you learn a lot. And then I've lived a bunch of different places all over the East Coast, and I think you grow up a lot from that. You learn how to live and do things on your own, do your own laundry, cook your own food, budget your own money. You're gonna make a ton of mistakes. You're gonna burn spaghetti. You're gonna go into debt. I think it's okay. I would rather you not, but
yeah,
I think that's a good way to learn, is by screwing it up.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Methodist University in North Carolina.
Methodist University.
Yeah.
Rocky Mount?
No, it's in Fayetteville.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. So let me shift gears here. A couple more areas I want to touch on. Just more about you. Has there been like a pivotal turning point for you, like a moment in your life where you just went in a different direction and it kind of shaped who you are today and what you're doing today?
I mean, I've had several of those in my life. I remember some of the struggles. They're hard to talk about, but I will. I remember when my son was really young, like a baby, barely sitting up, still a baby, couldn't talk or walk or anything. And we were struggling financially. Both my wife and I were working, and we couldn't afford to pay the daycare, so we had to pull him out of daycare.
Mm.
And we would take turns basically just hanging out with him, and I babysitting my own kid. And I remember looking at him and thinking, man, like, I can't take care of you.
Mm.
And it was, it hurt. It was embarrassing. Like, I'm not being a provider. This kid relies on me. It's not his fault he's here. I brought him here. I better take care of him. So I think that moment, I can still see it so clear. He was sitting on a blue and white blanket, head full of hair. He was born with a head full of hair. I could still see him. And that was a bit of a reality check. And I think that changed me. I think it drove me, uh, it drove me to think a little bit bigger and to maybe be a little bit more responsible.
Mm.
And then I started making more money. I figured out how to make money, so I wasn't broke anymore. Like, I could afford to pay the daycare, but then I didn't have anything left. I'm like, well, I made all this money. Where did it all go? So
Mm.
then I started really diving into personal finance and personal development, and then that kind of changed me and led me to a lot of opportunities, frankly. And now I sit here today, and I help people way smarter than me. A lot are way more successful than me financially, but they need help in other areas.
Right.
And sometimes it's like, wow, like, this guy needs my help. It shocks me almost every time. But I feel like men in particular, like, we have this ego that we've got it all figured out. And when you can really have an honest conversation, like, you know, we as in humans, we struggle. There's a struggle in all of us. Nobody has it all figured out.
That's right.
Nobody does.
That's right.
So I think if we take the ego aside and we can go look for help, hey, this guy's really good or this girl's really good and they can help me in this area, I'm gonna go get that advice.
Yeah. Reminds me of a book I read. I can't even remember the book, frankly, but the quote was, all of life is a struggle, and it is up to us to add the joy. And
Uh,
nothing sums up life more than that, right?
mhm.
It's, I was with a client yesterday, and, they've had, there've been some adversity and some challenges. And, we were talking about just embracing the hard, right?
Mm.
Get good at the hard stuff and be the kind of person that can do hard things, because there's never a moment in time where it gets easy. You think, well, when I graduate college, then it'll be nice. Well, no, you're going to struggle.
Mm.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Well, when we finally have a child, then life will be, no, it's going to be hard. And,
Yeah.
life, it really is. And I think some of the stuff that you've talked about here today, accountability and goals, and, knowing where you are and understanding the map and where you're trying to navigate. I think those are all things that we do to sort of mitigate that struggle and to give us resilience,
Mm.
to work through that. Yeah, I think that's spot on.
I've got a friend who has a saying that says, I do hard things for the most good.
Yeah,
You don't do hard things for nothing. Like, there needs to be a reason you're doing these hard things.
that's
So
good.
you find you find what you believe in, uh, and those things, it's going to require you to do hard things, but it's for the most good, and then it's a little easier to do those things.
That's right. Yeah. And I think too, we've been talking about wealth and money and all that. I think too, you have to define what's hard things, because there is we have a perspective of, what's hard. And if we take one step back and look around the world, and
Mhm.
suddenly our deal's not that hard, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
and that's where I like, I like the idea that you mentioned is like, you didn't explicitly say journaling, but, writing down your goals and reviewing your day. And
Mhm.
those are powerful self-development kinds of things. Let me ask you a couple more questions. Is there a, is there a book that you most often gift to people, or a book that you would look back and say, wow, this is one that I really got a lot out of, made a
Mhm.
difference? Anything?
Yeah, my favorite book, and this book changed my life. It's called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
Mhm.
That book changed my life because it came at the right time for me. That book showed up at the right time. It was actually sent to me by one of my best friends. So he sent me that book and I read it, and it just made what I thought was impossible feel possible.
Hmm.
And if I could sum up the book, it's doing let me get this right. It's doing the seemingly insignificant things. If you do those enough, it will change your life because it compounds. So trading the candy bar for a protein bar,
Mhm.
the milkshake for the protein shake,
Yeah.
right? The big piece of chocolate for the Hershey Kiss.
Yeah.
These seemingly insignificant things, they all add up. And the compound effect's either working for you or against you. It will not stop.
Yeah.
And we're all, this is a perfect time of year. It's the holiday season, right? Really easy to have that one drink, and then it's really easy to have that one drink tomorrow or that extra cookie. But then you look up, you did this for 3 weeks because there's holiday parties every night,
Yeah.
and now all of a sudden you're a few pounds heavier than you were on December 15th, and you don't know how it happened. It was the compound effect.
Yeah.
It worked against you. So awareness, that book made me really aware of the things that I was doing on a daily basis, and it made me substitute positive things for negative things.
Yeah. That's good.
Reading, it made me substitute reading for television.
Mhm.
Like at night, it's really easy to flip on the television. Uh, it's harder to read 10 pages,
Mhm.
but I read 10 pages every night because I'm aware that compound effect's working, and I'd rather it work for me.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Yeah, you're right. We really do underestimate the impact of time. You know, it's like when we talk about with some of my clients, it's like doing 20 minutes of prospecting, right? So, you know what? We're going to block out 2 10-minute blocks. We're going to pick up the phone. We're going to dial. You know what? In the moment, it doesn't matter. You're
Mhm.
probably not going to get anybody on the phone. You're probably not going to connect with anybody. If you do, it's probably not going to lead to a meeting. So you're right. In the moment, it really doesn't matter. But if you do that 20 minutes a day for 300 days during the year, I promise you it will have an impact. It will have an effect. And we really do. We get hyped up about quantity. We get hyped up about, we jump in and we're going to do a lot, but the problem is we do it a little bit.
Mm.
And what I think you're saying is the magic is doing a little bit, but doing it a lot in those little things.
The consistency, I think, is huge. And I use fitness as an example because I think we all can relate,
Yeah.
right? Um, it's hard to do 30 to 45 minutes to an hour every day. Okay.
Mhm.
But I think we'd all agree that's better than doing 7 hours on Sunday. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It's the consistency. And I really believe that the reason people are not consistent in the good thing, because we're all consistent, but we could be consistent in doing bad things.
That's right.
I think the reason we don't do the good things consistently is because the things that are easy to do are also easy to not do.
Mhm.
Like you were talking about prospecting.
Mhm.
Oh, it's no big deal. I'm not going to feel the negative impact of not prospecting today.
Mhm.
You're right. But if that continues, you'll feel that negative compound effect in 6 months when you don't have anybody to call on your business.
Right. Yeah.
Same
Well,
thing. Same thing with fitness. Like it's not the one cookie. It's not.
yeah.
People ask me, how do you stay in such good shape? Because I'm super aware of the compound effect.
Yeah.
Super aware of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll put that book, a link to the book in the show notes. One more question, and then I'll give you a chance, Matt, to tell folks how to find you and where to find you and talk a little bit about that. But I'm curious, have you ever had any advice from a mentor, a coach that has been particularly meaningful, or something you've kind of carry with you today?
Yeah. Using my unique ability and recognizing it,
Yeah.
and using it as a good thing, because it is, but it's often easy to see as negative. And like we talked about earlier, they tend to be the thing that people tell you you're to, or you're so, TOO or SO. When you hear that, I want the trigger to be, ooh, that's the thing I should lean into, instead of pulling away from it. I want you to lean into it.
Yeah.
When I started leaning into those things, the acceleration was fast. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. A lot of good stuff here today. Really enjoyed the chat. Time flies. Take a minute, Matt, and tell folks where they can find you. And I'll drop some of this in the show notes too. But how can folks look you up?
Yeah, mattdira.com. Really easy way to get me there. Instagram too, at the Matt Dira, D as in dog, IRA, the Matt Dira. And if you hit me on either of those, you can text the word or DM, or on mattdira.com, you can ask for a free wealth map, and I'll send you a free wealth map. I can also send you a free copy of my book. Funny enough, you asked me about defining success. That's what my book's about. So I'll send you a free copy of the ebook.
Nice. Is it an ebook that is there like a link to it?
Yeah. We'll send you a download.
Send it to me, and I'll put it in the show notes.
Great. Love that.
That work?
Perfect.
That way folks can just jump over there and grab it, and then your contact information.
Yep.
I'll put it in there as well.
Great.
Well, Matt, it's been a good conversation. Kids, parents, money, no money, struggle.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff, but we uncovered a lot of rocks here today. So I really appreciate you coming on. It was good to connect with you, and thanks for sharing some of your insights with us.
Yeah. Thank you, Robin. I really appreciate being here. It's fun to share all the ways that I screwed up and the ways I figured it out. I don't say I have everything figured out, but I believe I'm able to help people who are searching for something, and they might not know what it is.
Yeah. Very good. All right, Matt. Thanks again, my friend.
Thank you, Robin.